Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Take It to the Hizzy Fantasy Football, TITH number 214. I'm your host, Justin Bruni. Welcome back. I've got a special guest this evening, Luis from the at Real Guy Talk Pod. How are we doing, sir?
Doing good, man. Feeling good. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Monday. How did week 14 go for you? We're coming down to a close of the fantasy regular season. How are we looking?
Doing good. Should be able to get into the playoffs in 3 of my 5 leagues. One went really bad, cool. But the money league is still alive and well.
That's what we need. I had 6 leagues where we actually have like a playoff format, and I went to 4 of them. Some solid stuff this week, but I actually wound up winning, every league that I had this week. It's just that, some of them, it didn't really matter. I just knew I wasn't going to the playoffs. And I think I even had one league where, my opponent just didn't even start like 3 or 4 players. It was like full on tank. And I was like, well, I guess I could do the same, but the best I could do is like maybe move myself like one position back. It really wasn't going to do anything. I'd still scored a fair amount of points, but any like really, big highs or really low lows from this week?
Sadly, I started James Robinson, which was really tragic, and Travis Kelce, which let me down. Like, how did Kansas City score 48 points and Travis Kelce didn't get a touchdown? That's so sad.
Right.
But shout out to Hunter Renfrow, because he saved me in that league with Travis Kelce. Hunter Renfrow's that dude.
Yeah, same thing with Tyreek Hill. Like, what's all that garbage? And I think Mahomes only had like a couple of passing touchdowns. Yeah. He won me a game I didn't need to win. It was like, all right, cool. Like, nice little performance. I think the Chiefs, they're going to be they're cooking for their own playoffs. They're starting to warm up. Definitely a team that we need to still keep in the back of our heads. A lot of people are forgetting about them. Let's jump into our best props for tonight. We're going to be going over some Monday Night Football. We're going to be talking some fantasy waiver wire. We got the playoffs coming up. It's crucial. And some players, maybe even like James Robinson, that we need to know if we need to trust or bust them out of our starting lineups for the fantasy playoffs. All right, let's dive in. What is your best player prop for this evening for Monday Night Football?
Right now, it's the over on Odell Beckham's 46.5 yards. Okay. I believe that's moved up a bit to, what was it, 51, I believe we talked about earlier. So it's moving. With Higbee now being out and Darrell Henderson, it looks like this might be a little bit more of a pass. Happy kind of night. And if they want to beat Arizona, it's going to have to turn into a shootout. So I think Odell's doing his thing. He's starting to get his groove on, and I'll put money on Odell beating about 50.
Fair enough. I'm going the opposite side. I'm going with Van Jefferson, over 49.5 receiving yards. I do know that number has climbed as well. Like you mentioned, Higbee out of the lineup, was taken out of the lineup today, earlier this afternoon after testing positive for COVID. I think Jalen Ramsey is the same. I don't know if it was earlier today or yesterday, but I see his name on the list, so he's not going to be playing in this one. Van Jefferson actually went over this number the last time these teams played in week 4 of this season, and he had 90 receiving yards. That was with Robert Woods in the lineup. That was with Cooper Kupp kind of being held in check from the Cardinals, and Higbee was there as well, Darrell Henderson. So I think there's a little bit more opportunity for him to go around with some of those main guys missing. Henderson, Higbee, like we said, and OBJ, he may be able to go over that number. I mean, obviously there should be some more opportunities, but he still kind of struggled, early on with this one. So I really trust Van Jefferson just a little bit more than him. All right, let's jump into our Monkey Knife Fight props. Check the chat here. We got John Reed in the chat. Goon up, long time. No see, sir. Glad to have you back around the way. Let's jump into our Monkey Knife Fight props. The first one up, I know we have passing completion. So we're looking at Matthew Stafford versus Kyler Murray. Matthew Stafford at 24.5 passing completions and Kyler at 22.5 passing completions. What do you think about this one, Luis?
I got them over on both. I think this has the makings of potentially getting into that shootout realm, something like we just saw Green Bay and Chicago go through. I think this might be a little bit more high scoring than a lot of people expect, especially with the Rams kind of needing this win. It's going to be big for them. That it should be a very exciting game, but I trust both guys to go over on this one.
Okay. I'm actually going to go with the under on Kyler because he's just been hitting that, more consistently. He's been coming pretty close to it, but I don't know. I feel like in this one, they're going to be up early. I have the Cardinals kind of running away with this one, and Matthew Stafford and company kind of playing catch up all night long. I see the Cardinals winning by a couple of scores here. So I'm going to take the over for Matthew Stafford and the under for Kyler Murray, but it's going to be very close. Got to keep in mind, Kyler loves to do that work with his legs. He likes to extend the play, get out of the pocket, and he takes those ones for big gainers sometimes. All right, next up, we have fantasy points matchup. We have James Conner versus Van Jefferson Jr. We got Van Jefferson posting 11.5 fantasy points, and we have James Conner posting 12.5. Big time over for both for me, for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, that's easy. I did not get to check if Edmonds was taken off IR yet, but regardless, James Conner is the red zone machine. He is bound to rack up at least a touchdown here. And if Edmonds doesn't play, this is a super over, especially with Ramsey. Now they're missing some guys on that defense. This should be big. And Van Jefferson is most likely an over with Higbee being out. He's going to get a couple more catches, a few more targets. Obviously, no Robert Woods. He was able to catch a favorable matchup the last time these teams matched up. So it should be another easy game for him. He's going to need it too with OBJ there. So get him incorporated, get him situated, because they're going to need him for the long haul.
Yep, very good. I love Van Jefferson's over for sure. I think it's now 5 games of 7+ targets in a row. Now, he's not doing a ton with it. He's only getting 3 to 5 catches or so, but I trust him to potentially find pay dirt or go for some big yardage tonight. Could hit a couple of 20 or 30 yard gains. Again, I expect them to be behind, so there's going to be maybe some garbage time element to that number as well. James Conner, smashing that over 12.5. I mean, the dude's a touchdown machine. I think we can safely say, even if Edmonds is back tonight, that it's Connor's backfield. He's been putting in that work. He's cleared that 12.5 points, I want to say, in 6 weeks running. 6 weeks running. Been all the James Conner show over there in the desert. I love it. Absolutely love it. So hammer those numbers. Go check out some monkeyknifefight.com. We got a promo code on the bottom there. If you guys want to sign up, they'll match your deposit 100% up to $50. Start off with an extra 50 in your bag. All right, let's jump over to our game preview for this evening. We now have the Cardinals coming in as 3-point favorites and a game total of 51 points. We'll just start with the spread and the money line. Luis, what do you got here? Seems like we're both on the cards.
Yeah, this is definitely the Cardinals. I think 3, I think we can both agree is a little not enough, honestly, especially with all these injuries. Not too sure how D-Hop is going to look, but it's definitely going to be favorable that Ramsey won't be on him so much. We could be seeing something like him potentially going off, considering they're going to start getting ready for their own playoff run. They want to hold on that number 1 seed, scored a touchdown right away. That makes the most sense. Over on the 51, because I do think this might potentially be a shootout, like I spoke about earlier. So I'm all in on Arizona winning this one. The Rams have just not been made for these big games these last few weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they won by 30 points up against the Jaguars, but this is a different animal. I mean, the Cardinals are 10-2 on the season. They're 9-3 ATS. I think that's still one of the best in the league. Maybe the Packers have a better ATS cover. I'm not sure, but they've been hitting on all marks. They're 8-2 ATS in their last 10. This team, without their leadership, without Kyler Murray, without Hopkins, even without Edmonds, they were producing. They were getting the job done. They did take a loss
to games too.
What's that?
Kingsbury, the head coach, was out for a game too, and they won that one.
He doesn't play. But yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, obviously, all of those elements add in, but yet they've still found success and they've still hit at a very high mark here. So I don't know how we don't trust the Cardinals, and frankly, I don't know how the books haven't reacted to these players being missing. I feel like they're just betting on the public not being aware. Like, don't worry, everybody's at work. We'll be fine. These people are laying these numbers on their car ride home. Minus 158. To the Cardinals at home when they've already beaten the Rams in LA, and the Rams are going to be missing Jalen Ramsey, Higbee. We already knew our Henderson. We kind of already knew about, right? But they're missing, many of these guys, and you can't, in my opinion, expect the Rams to go one-dimensional and just heave the ball all over the yard, because the opportunity is on the ground up against the Cardinals. So, I expect Sony Michel to get a lot of work tonight, and I feel like that's the best way to really combat the Cardinals, at least tonight on Monday Night Football, is keep the ball out of Murray's hands. Like, every opportunity you have to extend a drive, whether it's, if you're at midfield at 4th down, just go for it, guys. Like, that's where the type of situations I feel like they're going to be in tonight, I do not like the over 51. Both of these teams are top 10 defenses. I just feel like this is going to be, one of those, if you watch the Cowboys game this week up against the Washington football team, you see how they're just trading turnovers left and right?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we could get a couple of moments like that in this game, where you get a team all marching all the way down the field, you using up a ton of clock, turnover. And that's to go either way, because both of these defenses have been very good all season long. But it is going to be interesting to see how the Rams handle business without Ramsey. So did you have the Cardinals on the cover 3?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're in agreement other than the total, other than the 51. What would be your score prediction for the over 51?
I'm thinking something around 35 to maybe 20, something around there.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, that's very similar to the last game. They lost 20 or 37-20. So that's very similar to that game. I was thinking, like the 28-21, but man, maybe the Cardinals just blow it wide open with Ramsey out of the game. You were mentioning D-Hop. If D-Hop can put up like 40 or 50 tonight somehow, I could win the most points in a league.
I have him in 2 leagues and my money league. I would love that.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that. I'm when you're like in that last week and you got a points payout and you're just like, well, this guy's 20 points ahead of me. He's 9 points ahead of me right now. Let's see. You know what I mean? Like you're just like counting like out all the situations you could have cashed in. All right, let's move on here. We got our preview. It sounds like we're in agreement. Cards all the way. I'm going under. Luis is going to the over. We'll see what we get out of that. I'm thinking more of like a 28 21 type of game. Going to be close, but I think we're going to cash the under here. All right, let's jump into some fantasy waiver wire. Some guys that had some solid production this week that we need to decide on if we're going to be trusting them in our lineups for first week of playoffs or second week, depending on your league. How about that Rashad Penny this week? 16 for 137 and 2 tutties. He had a 57% snap count. DJ Dallas had a 18. Collins had a 23% coming back from injury. Is this a backfield that you plan to trust? Rashad Penny, Alex Collins, any of these guys? Well, probably not DJ Dallas.
I am so scared of this Seattle running back group. It's been sort of shifting all season long. Different guys have to step up and do what they can. With Chris Carson ended up going out, which was tough. But I'm not putting too much stock in pretty much annihilating the Houston Texans. Probably not really something I'm looking forward to. If you really have to resort to this, then potentially. But I believe he's going up against the Rams next week. We just talked about top 10 defense. They're not really I believe it's Rams, Chicago, Detroit, and then they finish off with Arizona. So they're going to have a lot of tough defenses on the way where they're most likely might be trailing, considering their defense is not that great. So it's a no for me. I cannot trust that backfield.
Yeah, I've learned by experience. I've started DJ Dallas. That's happened in the past couple of weeks.
1 week, like 2 weeks ago, he got me like 3 point something. I was like, why'd I even bother? There was a week Adrian Peterson scored the touchdown. I was like, yeah, of course, Adrian Peterson, wherever he goes, he's just going to have his little moment. Of course.
I started him the week before they had Adrian Peterson, and he had literally no production until the last 3 minutes of the game where he had like 4 or 5 catches. I was like, thank you. Appreciate that on your way out the door. That was funny. But yeah, I'm with you. This is not a backfield that I want to trust. Against the Rams next week, it could be Collins. The week after that against Chicago, it could be back to Penny. You could see DJ Dallas come in and steal a touchdown. It's not an ideal situation. I mean, if you're really hurting, who would you prefer? Like Rashad Penny or Rex Burkhead in your lineup?
Oh, yeah. Nope. I can agree on that part because that's a similar situation. I don't know what Houston's doing. They let go of Phillip Lindsay, and then they ended up trading Mark Ingram, and that backfield is just as busted. The running backs are scary this year.
Yeah. I don't know. I might go with Rex Burkhead just because if David Johnson's still on COVID, they'll just run him into the ground. They don't care if he gets hurt. Here's 12 touches. No problem, guy. Maybe you land in the end zone. Maybe you don't. We'll see. All right. Next up, we got Tua Tagovailoa coming off a bye. The Miami Dolphins may not have a single running back this week. You were just mentioning Phillip Lindsay, COVID. Salvin Ahmed, COVID. Myles Gaskin, who we will be talking about for trust or bust in the playoffs, COVID. Now, obviously, one of these guys could, come back here, but I don't know, man. I feel like if you're in a single quarterback league and Tua's got the Jets on the books for week 15 and there's no running back, sounds like Tua's playing 2 positions. Are you firing up some Tua first week of the fantasy playoffs, or at least maybe adding him, throwing him on the bench?
I have had Tua on my bench in my league where I had Lamar. He ended up on bye week. I was like,
oh, here you go.
Quarterback ended up with Tua, and I was like, oh wow, Tua actually produced really well. Should be noted, he is going up and coming off a bye week and playing the Jets. Everybody puts up points against the Jets. So it feels like a good play. If you are desperate and you need a quarterback, go with Tua. I'm in one of my leagues. I have a 2 quarterback league. If you do need a second quarterback, don't be afraid to pick up Tua. Again, they're playing the Jets.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be a hit, and he most likely will have to move around a little bit. I am going to be intrigued if maybe they slide Waddle into the backfield a little bit, give him some pitches, see how he does back there, considering we're seeing all these wide receivers sort of mix and match and move around a little bit. So it's going to be interesting, but I do like Miami. They're starting to pick up steam. They're starting to pick up pace, but it's Tua. If you got him, it's not bad. If you can stash him, not bad.
they've won what now 5 in a row going into the
Yep.
bye, and they're coming off against the Jets, New Orleans, Tennessee. It was actually pretty good matchup. So yeah, I definitely want to get Tua in the lineup this week. I mean, I don't really think it's that much of a fringe start either. I think it's more of a must start up against the Jets.
Oh yeah.
And if they don't have any running game and he needs to be it, I mean, I'm sure, they'll pull Albert Wilson in for a carry or something like that, something creative. But I feel like he would get, a ton of touches in the run game, or a lot of just run design games or run design plays specifically for himself. So I think he's a great play this week and definitely a must add if available. Next up is Kendrick Bourne, who is 31% rostered on Yahoo platforms. Took a big hit last week. Obviously Mac only completed 2 out of 3 passes. It's a little bit different, but the prior weeks without snow and crazy weather in Buffalo, he had 20 points, 6.5, 17.7. He was hitting a nice little clip there. Found the end zone a couple of times up against Tennessee the week prior to Buffalo. He's got a really good matchup up against Indy this week, in my opinion, on the road. Is this someone that you're going to trust?
As a Patriots fan, yes, I absolutely love Kendrick Bourne. It's great. He has shown he's sort of the big play guy that Mac will go to when he needs those big yards. He's, I believe, like 14 yards average per catch. Finds pay dirt, 5 touchdowns already, had a multiple touchdown game. Really good if you need a wide receiver 3, especially in a matchup like this. Should be a really good game. I like him. He leads our team in receiving yards, so obviously he gets the ball. They incorporate him in there. He does everything you got to do. We don't necessarily have amazing weapons, but this is a nice little play, especially if you can have him, maybe even for flex if you're in a little bit of a grind. I know a few weeks last week there was potential of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen missing, and we have COVID throughout the whole thing, and injuries play a factor. So this is not a bad play to have Kendrick Bourne.
Oh, yeah. The Colts are top 3 in the league for fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position. And I still believe they're number 1 for the most amount of touchdowns allowed to the wide receiver position. So there's a lot of upside for Kendrick Bourne in that matchup there. What I was loving about Kendrick Bourne is I was cashing those reception props like 3 weeks in a row over the game against Cleveland? It was 2, hit 4. Atlanta, they moved it up to 3. He hit 4. Tennessee, they moved it up to 4. He hit 5. So they were increasing his prop number every week, and I just kept going back to him. I was absolutely loving it. I did stay away in the Buffalo game. I think we're going to read the room, right? The weather reports. But Indy, I'm going to go back to the well. I'm hoping the number comes down because he didn't make a single catch in that game against Buffalo. So hopefully the public will, or the books will try to take advantage of the public that way. What do you think about Mac Jones? I mean, is this the second coming of TB or what?
Man, I've joked around. I don't know if anyone's watches First Things First with Kevin Wildes and all those guys. He's called them like baby goat and stuff, and I've done that, like joking around. We'll see how it translates. He started to pick up. He's looking a lot better. He's starting to hit his stride more, a little bit less mistakes, more confident in the pocket, doing his thing, hits his guys. I'm hoping. I really do. I hope that this is our franchise quarterback for the next few years. For hopefully the next 10, 15, hell, maybe 20 years, the way Brady and some of these other guys are looking. You never know. So hopefully, I hope so, because I don't want to have to go through a quarterback carousel nightmare. My heart can't take it. My heart can't take it.
I was watching, I have been watching Man in the Arena. And what I've seen from what they have shown from the early days of Tom Brady and Bill and the beginning rise of their run and their dynasty was, Tom Brady wasn't really anything that special. He just worked really hard. He learned the playbook. He met with Bill like 3 to 5 hours every Tuesday and was just tied to him at the hip and just wanted to learn from the best, whether it was an offensive player, a defensive player, Bill himself, people in the building. So I don't know, the way that people talk about Mac, he sounds a lot like that. And I don't know. I'm interested to see how that situation goes forward. As a Bears fan, we got Justin Fields as our future quarterback. And I was talking with somebody earlier today. I was like, man, could you imagine what Fields would look like in the Patriots uniform? My God, they'd be talking about MVP for him this year. My goodness,
so close. They're so close, so close.
Well, poor kid, we had to trade up and get him. Sorry, Justin. From one
right.
Justin to another.
You guys got a good one. I'll give you that. You guys got not a good one. I should say a great one. I love Justin Fields. Intangibles through the roof.
He's making the baby steps, but in this system that we have, it's not really for anybody. Like I don't know who would succeed in the Bears offensive scheme right now. Even top 5 quarterbacks, you're looking around the room going with this play calling, like who's going to produce in this offense, right? I mean, sure, you could put Tom Brady out there and he'd probably make Allen Robinson relevant again. I don't know what the hell happened. Allen Robinson's supposed to be quarterback proof. That's literally like his whole brand is being QB proof. I mean, Look at the people he played with in Jacksonville. My goodness. Mitch Trubisky. My God. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I would like to see some more movement on his progression, but I do feel like it's very system-oriented for these young quarterbacks. When you look at Mac Jones, you look at him really leaning into the system, into the education that he's getting around him, and I feel like a lot of rookie quarterbacks would really love to be in that type of situation, where it's, it just feels really guided. You're not feeling like you're so pressured not to make mistakes. So I really love what they got cooking over there for the young Mac. All right, got a little caught up there. Let's keep going on here. We got Rashad Bateman up for the Baltimore Ravens. Had a nice little week, 7 for 8, 7 catches on 8 targets, 103 receiving yards. What him and Tyler Huntley just playing catch in the backyard, with the practice squad, or what? Is this something that we expect to continue on, that we want to buy in for our playoffs?
I don't know about playoffs, considering if Lamar does come back, he does have a better wavelength with Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews, and then obviously does more with his feet. But Bateman, since the off season, once they drafted him, I was like, watch out for this guy. Sort of post week 10, once he starts getting the groove, learning for the system. Sucks that he ended up getting injured, but he has all the intangibles to emerge in this lineup. I would pick him up. I have had him in some of my leagues once it was injured, scooping him up a little bit. He has tremendous upside. At one point, he was arguably the best wide receiver coming out of the draft. Like there's all those guys were sort of all mix and matching. So they got a good one, and I'm all in on Bateman. All in on Bateman.
Yeah, I want him. I love these matchups coming up too. Green Bay, Cincinnati, and the Rams. I expect them to be playing from behind in all of those games, to be honest with you. Even Cincinnati. It's tough to really even know who's good in that division regardless, but I expect Cincinnati to put up points on them. They're going to be playing in Cincinnati. The Rams the same, Green Bay the same. Week 18, most aren't in the finals for fantasy, but that's in Pittsburgh. And he's just been earning more snaps. Like Duvernay isn't really like an all-around receiver, right? He's more of a speedy gadgetry type of guy. Sammy's still getting older by the day. He looks slower every week. And Marquise Brown is taking that leap forward. So I agree with you. He might hinder some of his potential production. But Mark Andrews had 11 for 11 this week and a tutty, and Bateman was still just fine. So I feel like there's room for him in this offense. All right, next up, one of my real highs from this week was Allen Lazard, 6 for 7, 75 receiving yards and a tutty. I started him in 2 leagues this week. Not like over like any big names or anything. It's not like I was like, oh yeah, I started Allen Lazard over Terry McLaurin with a 0 on my bench. I wish that was the case. No, it wasn't. I think I actually had them both in a starting roster together, but I did start them just where I was missing guys. We're all, losing guys to injuries and COVID or whatever. And he showed up 6 for 7, 75 receiving yards and a tutty. He played 82% of the snaps, which is a little bit more normal. Like we've seen in recent weeks, or prior weeks, I should say, MVS getting more snaps, even Randall Cobb, a few games. I feel like this is something that I want, or a guy that I want to buy into right now. Has that connection with A-Rod. They have, they're pretty good friends off the field. Is Allen Lazard someone that you're ready to start or pick up with whatever fob you may have left for the playoffs?
Oh, yeah. Lazard should be a potential pickup. Absolutely. He has 2 favorable matchups towards the end of the year. I believe they play Minnesota and Detroit. They're going to put up points against those teams easily, especially after Minnesota ended up beating Green Bay a few weeks back. Green Bay is going to want to get that one. So this should be a play. He does everything. He's usually out there on the field when he's healthy. He blocks, he runs, he got all his routes. Devontae has a bunch of attention, so it usually leaves guys on one-on-ones. With Tunyon being out, it's really helped him out in a way, really have him step up. So if you should stash him, especially towards the end, if you are in the championship picture and you got him going up against Minnesota or Detroit, that might be a really nice flex play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is that opportunity for, not a goose egg, but, a really low percentage. The week prior before the bye, 2 for 6, 6 targets, 2 catches, 13 receiving yards. Not a lot there. But he does have games, or he had a stretch earlier in the season from week 6 to week 9 where he had 3 touchdowns in 3 consecutive games played. So there is still that little connection there. I feel like his injury kind of dinged him up a little bit and held him back from, those high volume snaps. All right, next up we have, or lastly up, I should say, for our waiver wire talk, we have Jakeem Grant Sr. He has put back-to-back weeks of touchdowns and 15-plus points in fantasy for the Bears. He's not playing a ton. He's the 4th in receivers for snap counts at 47%. I feel like this is a bit of a far cry, but I don't know. I feel like Nagy in this offense that isn't going anywhere for the rest of the season. Like, we're not going to win anything, right? I feel like we should be playing to the bottom and not the middle. I feel like he may just give this guy some extra work, kind of like the Cordell Patterson treatment, because we can't hit any of our receivers downfield. And we just pull out the gadgetry book, or gadgetry playbook, I should say, and give this guy some random touches. Did you see his touchdown last night?
The punt return?
No, the end around sweep with the massive amount of lead blockers up the left side.
Yep. Yeah.
It's pretty solid.
I probably not. Some of the special teams guys are a little bit scary, considering that really is where he made the most of his points from last night. A little bit skeptical on that, but he has seen his. Let me see. He had 7 targets 2 weeks ago, 3 last night. So he is sort of getting incorporated more in the wide receiver role. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes going on, considering don't know what's happening with Allen Robinson and stuff like that. I thought Cole Kmet would have a bit of a bigger emergence. It's sort of hasn't been quite there. And then Montgomery was injured and stuff, so he's been getting incorporated. So the offense has just been wacky all season long. So no offense to your Bears, but don't have too much faith on those guys.
Yeah, no, guys, if you're starting a wide receiver from the Bears that is not named Mooney, not named Robinson, you're doing it wrong. Believe me. Do not trust Damiere Byrd. Do not trust Jakeem Grant Sr. And do not trust Marquis Goodwin. I put Marquis Goodwin in my lineup the week after, I think it was Thanksgiving. Yeah, I think on Thanksgiving he showed up and was like getting random touches. I think he even had a touchdown, or I don't know, maybe it was just over 100 receiving yards. Yeah, I started him the next week. I shouldn't have. He laid a goose egg and didn't touch the ball at all, because that was the week that Nagy moved on from Goodwin to Damiere Byrd. And we were just like, oh, great. By the way, Damiere Byrd is still here. He hasn't been playing. He's playing now. He's playing today. Sorry if you started Marquis Goodwin. I somehow still didn't lose with Marquis Goodwin in any of my lineups. I really went heavy on him that week. But lesson learned. Don't do it, guys. Mooney, Robinson, and that's it. And Robinson, honestly, he's the far cry of the two. You probably want to target him more. Who are these with the VO? What is the hell is this shit? Get out of here. All right, so now we're playing some trust or bust, going over some guys that have, they've had some rocky roads, the past handful of weeks here, and we need to know, are we putting them in our lineups? Are we going to trust them, or are they busts for our fantasy playoffs? Some big names here. We got James Robinson up. He had 6 carries for 4 yards yesterday. The week prior, he had 8 carries for 24. And then 3 weeks prior, he had very productive weeks. He had 17 carries for 86 yards, 12 for 29 and a touchdown, 12 for 57 and a touchdown. He's got Houston, the Jets, and New England on the books for the fantasy playoffs. Trust or bust, James Robinson, Luis?
This hurts me so much because he's been my running back 2 starter for the majority of the season. And I've literally watched this tragedy firsthand. But I don't trust. It's a bust. I'm sorry, Robinson. Yep. I know they probably have 2 good matchups with Houston and the Jets, but then it's just going to get harder with the Patriots, obviously, and then the Colts. It's just going to be too tough for him. Whether he's healthy or not, or he's getting benched, or whatever shenanigans are going on down in Jacksonville, it's just I can't trust any of those players out there either, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. I was very, very high on James Robinson. Even before the ETN injury, I said, no, this is going to be the guy. You have to look at his power. You have to look at his speed, and he's got really young legs on him. You don't just waste young legs, in the NFL. Like, you don't just, put your prize toy, on the top shelf far away from you. No, you get him out there and you play with him. Play with it. Hello, come on now. So I hated that.
Trevor Lawrence said, he was like, hey, where's like our best running back? Like, what is going on? So I can't trust this team. I'm sorry.
No, I hear you. I'm agreeing with you. It's a bust with a caveat. So let's say, this first game up against Houston, I'm not starting him, right? But let's say he goes out there and he finds the end zone. We'll say it's very similar to the Indy game, 12 for 57 and a touchdown, maybe a catch or 2. Would that make you feel comfortable enough to start him the next week if you advance to the Jets? Because I feel like of these matchups, I'm like, man, the Jets, I don't know if I could say no. I don't know. I mean, it's on the road at the Jets. We've seen the Jets, kind of have some, weird occurrences or random occurrences of success. I don't know. Is that a situation where you're just like, man, this matchup's too good to stay away? Or, man, Jags are just that bad. Screw Meyer. Bring me 2023.
Oh, yeah, no. I most likely might still start him in these next 2 weeks. I'm not going to lie, because he does have some favorable matchups, but I am a little scared that I'm going to sort of get screwed. But, yeah, if he goes good against Houston, circle him down for the Jets. He should be all right. That should be a game that they win. Or he should at least have a positive script, because they shouldn't be getting blown out by the Jets or Houston. So they should be running the ball. So he should have good production in at least those first 2 games.
All right, well, there you go. Take it with a little caveat there, viewers. All right, next up, another one of your Patriots, Jacoby Myers. Didn't record a stat last week, of course. Obviously, weather situation. He's got Indy. We were just talking about Kendrick Bourne. This production for him has been pretty solid. Obviously, he's not a big, end zone guy, but, he hovers right around the 4 to 5 catches, anywhere from, 40 to 70 yards. Is this enough for you? I mean, like, for example, let's say like a 10-team league. Would you have Jacoby Myers in your starting lineup?
Potential flex play, but more so towards the end of the year, considering he has like Jacksonville and Miami towards the end. Not so much considering he's got Indy and Buffalo due back to back. That's going to be really tough. But I do have him sort of penciled down as our team's PPR prince. He has 90 targets. The next guy is Aguilar, and he has 35 more targets than Nelson Aguilar. He is the guy that Mac goes to when in doubt. He's just looking for Myers, and he's going to throw it his way. So there is a chance where he's going to have a big production in terms of PPR, especially if you're in a whole 1-point league. I know some people do 0.5, but if you're on the good side, there is a good chance, though he is not a touchdown machine, which is a little bit of a tragedy. So it can be a little mixy, but they do bust out the gadget playbook. Him and Kendrick Bourne have each thrown a touchdown this year. So you really never know what Bill's going to scheme up. So there is potential, especially going up against Indy and Buffalo back-to-back. I don't believe the weather should be that bad for that Buffalo game. So we might be seeing a little bit more trickery. And there might be a chance that he throws a pass in these next, 4 games.
I'd love to see it. Yeah, I would be dialing him up for sure in anything 12 or beyond. But I know obviously with 10-team, things get really tight and you have those really tough questions. So I may not start him in a 10 league, but 12 and 14, yeah, I'm all the way in. And it's just because you're just playing some for higher upside, right? You may have a couple of guys on the bench that you just feel more confident are going to land in the end zone that week.
Yeah.
All right, riding with the tight end here, we got Gerald Everett, who has found pay dirt twice in his last 3 weeks. And the production, while it's not out of this world, if you're struggling at the tight end position, if you got hit with injuries or COVID, this might be the answer. Was it this week? I'm sorry, 2 for 2, 15 yards and a touchdown. Saved his week with a touchdown, right? The week before, 6 for 4, only 7 receiving yards. I don't know how they managed to do that. The week prior, 5 for 9 for 37 and the touchdown. The week prior to that, 3 for 4, 37. And then week 10, he had 8 catches on 8 targets for 63 yards. Is this a guy that you'll trust with Wilson looking like he's getting healthier?
It's going to be a no for me. It's a bust. Just because in only 4 games has he seen 5 targets and only 2 games has he had 50 or more yards. So you really are relying on him being a touchdown threat, much like Jimmy Graham about last season. It was like you have to get Jimmy Graham in there because he's sort of that touchdown magnet. It might not work out doing that way. Tight ends are very scary if you don't have sort of like the top 3 or 4, maybe even 5 guys.
They are.
You sort of are like, maybe I should just take 2 and then like sort of switch out based on matchups. But he's not really going to have any favorable matchups. You got Rams, Chicago, and then Detroit, which should be the one easy one, and then they wrap up with Arizona. So it's not a lot of favorable matchups for him going forward.
So who would you rather start going into the playoffs? A guy like Gerald Everett, who obviously sounds a little bit more risky, and I agree with you. He'd probably be off the radar. Or would you go with someone like Hunter Henry, who kind of is this year's Jimmy Graham, where touchdown or nothing,
Yeah, there is potential because Henry, for me, has seen a lot more touches than Jonnu, and he's been a lot more productive than Jonnu so far this season. There's a couple guys that I noticed. CJ Uzomah is like a random hit or miss. He's only drafted in about 11.5, but he's been up on the upside. I know Dawson Knox is still out there for like 15%, 16% of leagues. Mike Gesicki,
that's an easy scoop.
Yeah, there's still a couple leagues out there that there's some of these tight ends are still out there open. So really start doing your vetting and go through and check. But someone like Hunter Henry, I would lean towards more, just a little bit more for the touchdown upside.
Yeah, I was in a deeper league where I was constantly going back and forth like every week. I was like, man, do I start Henry or Uzomah? Or I could pick up Everett from waivers and start him.
Right. Yeah. I was going through the same. Like, I think I had like Kelsey and Waller and Hawkinson in one. And then like one of my leagues is just like, damn, who's playing tight end for me this week? Like, I have no idea who's there.
That's hilarious. All right, let's move on. This guy, super random name, coming out of nowhere. He's kind of solidified himself a safe floor for the Jaguars. Laquan Treadwell, risen from the grave. This week, 6 targets, 4 catches. Last week, 5 catches, 4 targets. The week prior, 3 weeks ago, 8 targets, 4 catches. The 4-catch floor is not that unappetizing. 3 weeks ago, 53 receiving yards. Last week, 62. This week, 68. It's getting better. It's climbing. The resurgence of Laquan Treadwell. Now this situation, obviously, it's got to be like, 14 teams, maybe even more. If you're in like a 16-team league, would you fire up Laquan Treadwell, get back up against the wall?
You have to be absolutely desperate to start a Jags wide receiver this year. I'm talking about all of them because I thought Laviska Shenault was ready to go. I bought stock in leagues for him, and that hasn't worked out. DJ Chalk ended up going down. Marvin Jones isn't really sort of like these wide receivers. And then Agnew came out a couple weeks ago, and it was like, where did he come from? Like, wow, he's amazing. And it's like, oh wait, he's gone now. So I have no faith in these Jacksonville wide receivers. I don't have faith in the organization or the team. I'm staying away from majority of Jacksonville players. Not even gonna lie. I don't think this is gonna hold up.
I started Laquan Treadwell, I think, in back-to-back weeks, and 1-1, and where I started him. So I mean, I'll take what I can get. Excuse me, but again, back up against the wall. Everyone's hurt. Everyone's gone. I think Calvin Ridley was in that mix. Now a couple other players, but anyways, you had mentioned Agnew. I'd gone through Shenault as well. I was really high on Shenault at the beginning of the season. Shenault and James Robinson were the guys that I was highest on. Like, even when Etienne was healthy, I was like, that's not going to work out the way everyone thinks it is. You're just kind of getting, caught up in the draft hype and all that excitement, which was, it was exciting. I think it would have been nice to see Etienne on the field with Lawrence, but obviously we didn't get it this year. Hopefully next. But, Shenault and Robinson were big guys that I was looking for. I feel like they just keep bringing in the next guy that everyone isn't going to pay attention to. That became Jamal Agnew. Then Jamal Agnew became Tavon Austin, and then Tavon Austin became Laquan Treadwell. I don't know. I guess I just look at the targets and I look at the snaps. Where was he? I guess I don't have his snaps out in front of me here, but the volume's there. I don't know. In very dire situations, I would trust Laquan Treadwell. Houston and the Jets for sure. Not so much New England in your fantasy championship. I think we can keep that simple. Next up, this guy's talking about retiring, maybe not playing for the Steelers anymore, but Ben Roethlisberger. He's put together a couple of decent weeks after, some real turds. Like, actually 3 out of the last 4 weeks have been really solid. He's thrown 3 interceptions across the last 4 weeks, but he's also thrown, 6, 8, 9 passing touchdowns. He's got Tennessee, which is a great matchup. He's got Kansas City, which isn't a bad matchup. I think it's pretty good. Those are your first 2 weeks. I don't know. I feel like he's a trust at this point. But again, how well do we know this division?
Yeah, nope. Not for me.
Nope.
Nope. I'm staying away from Big Ben like COVID. I'm not going to lie. I don't know what I'm going to get with Pittsburgh. I don't know if I'm going to get this amazing team that has all these young weapons on offense and this great defense that can make maybe a Super Bowl run in a few years once they actually get things situated, or I'm going to get whatever they rolled out to start that Minnesota game. So I'm staying away from Big Ben, especially because Tennessee is still trying to prove that they're still here. They're still relevant. They got some games to prove. Kansas City and Cleveland, those are going to be some tough matchups. I think Baker is, especially considering it's a division game, they should get up for that. And Kansas City's defense has been really rising over these last few weeks. Kansas City is doing its thing lately. So I'm staying away from Big Ben. I don't trust Big Ben at all. I watch the Steelers games and I just kind of laugh when I watch Big Ben. It is more of an entertainment thing, like watching him scramble for like a yard out of the pocket. I'm so done with Big Ben. He needs to just move on.
I don't know who Atlanta's opponent is this week, but who would you rather start, Ben Roethlisberger or Matt Ryan? I'm with you on Ben, by the way. I benched Ben when I needed a quarterback. I was like, oh, Minshew starting? Got him. Let's go.
It definitely depends on that. I mean, maybe, but then again,
let me see if I can pull up who Atlanta's playing.
Big Ben does have a lot better weapons. I don't know. It's tough.
So the Falcons have the 49ers. I would probably lean Ben. The Tennessee Titans are a much more favorable matchup than the 49ers.
Yeah, 49ers are starting to pick up steam now.
Yeah, it's all situational.
Yep.
All right, last guy up here, and then we're going to head out for the night, get to some Monday Night Football. Really appreciate you coming on, Luis. Our last guy up, he's got COVID, Myles Gaskin. So I guess this also comes with a caveat if he actually clears COVID. I'm not sure if he's I guess I can get that pulled up right now too, if he's vaxxed or not. Are you aware if he's vaxxed?
I have no clue. There's so many guys some guys are immunized, so you never know nowadays.
You don't know. It's a weird state of events we're living through here.
Right, you got fake vaccine cards, you got players getting suspended. I don't even know anymore. I would assume though.
Man, I can't find it yet. Yeah, I mean, if he's in, I feel like he has to be that guy. I mean, honestly, whatever whatever one of those running backs comes back healthy is going to have a huge workload. The Jets, New Orleans, Tennessee, I love those matchups. I mean, yeah, New Orleans is okay on the ground, but Miami's been a very competitive team. I think we mentioned already in the show that they've won 5 in a row before going into the bye. So they've got a good matchup up against the Jets to tune them up, after the bye, whether they have running backs or not. Tua is going to be running all over the place or whoever's there. I have been caught at the wrong times not starting Myles Gaskin, and I got to a point where I just said, okay, I'm just going to start him. I don't care. And I feel like if you have him and you don't have many other options, or you just kind of have those dark horse options, maybe even some of the few that we brought up, I would start Gaskin. Like if I'm looking at Myles Gaskin or James Robinson, it's going to Myles. That's an easy one. I'm sure I could think of a more difficult one, but I don't know. I feel like if he's there, you plug him in. He's had weeks where he's had the ball taken out of his hands, had no touches. He's had other weeks where he's had 25 plus. I just feel like those opportunities are going to be there if he's healthy, because Miami wants to make a run of it here.
Yeah, if he's healthy and he gets to come back and he's the guy that gets to lock and loaded, start him up, because he's going to get a ton of touches. He had a 10 for 10 for 74 yards against Tampa Bay earlier this year, so he's shown that he can catch. Did you start him?
No.
Oh, no.
I didn't start him.
He has some upside. He's sort of emerging, has a little bit of a dual threat upside where he does catch passes a lot more, and they do get him touches. So I do have him down for a high usage rate, especially against the Jets. He's going to get probably 20, 25 carries, and maybe close to like 30 touches in total when you include the catches. So this is a must play.
I guess it also depends on how COVID, affects him. I guess if he's getting back, probably not too many crazy side effects, but to that 10 for 10 game, the game before he had 2 carries for 3 yards. The game after the 10 for 10 game, I started him that game after. He had 5 carries for 9 yards. But I still started him every week after that. I was just like, that's it. I don't care. Fine. I was wrong those weeks. I'm not going to be wrong again. He'll just be in, and that's it. So
that was me with Mike Gesicki a few weeks ago. I didn't start him for 2 weeks, and afterwards I was like, man, I'm just going to rock with him. Oh, well. And it's worked most weeks.
Sometimes that's how you got to do it. This week, I was losing my mind over who to start at tight end. I had Albert O on the bench. You know what I mean? Just sometimes you just got to keep it simple. I wound up starting Bobby Wright, the fill-in for Hawkinson, and I had O'Shaughnessy on the bench for the Jags, and I had Albert O, and I was just like, Albert O hasn't had a touchdown since the first 3 weeks. You know what I mean? But it was Detroit. I should have known better.
Right.
It's tough though. That's the game we play. Heck, I have Higbee in my lineup tonight. Not making a comeback there. It's all right. I was already in the playoffs. It's no big deal. We'll make it. We'll be all right. All right, so sir, that's all the time that we have for tonight. Please let everybody know where they can find you, your content, your Twitter. I know you guys have your brand Twitter and your own. Share it up. Yep.
I am Lewis from RGTP, Road Guy Talk Podcast. I know it's a mouthful. Reason why I try to figure out a way to shorten it. I didn't really think about it. Kind of sucked. But you can always find us at the Road Guy Talk Podcast. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Also making our rounds on Spotify. We are slowly growing and making moves in this world that is the podcasting space. It has been a journey. It's been about a year now that we've been sort of figuring things out. So it's a lot of fun. We usually do live streams on Wednesday. Usually have guest appearances then, and we upload on Spotify. We're going to try to do that weekly.
And you guys talk about a lot of stuff, right? Not just sports. You do music and gaming and other stuff, right?
We do basketball and football. Obviously, today we have done some wrestling content. We're doing WWE and AEW, are having some big shows coming forward. We do a lot of that. We are dabbling in the video game space. We do play a lot of PlayStation. We are some nerds over there. And anime is a very big part. As you can see, I have my anime sweater on now. We nerd out a lot. We nerd out a lot, and it's a lot of fun. It's really just anything guys talk about. It's usually the stuff that we cover.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. For NBA, are you a Celtics fan then, I'm assuming, as well?
Yes, I am. I have my Jason Tatum jersey sitting up in my closet next to me right now.
It's a good place for it, man. When are they going to figure it out? When are they going to start going on some runs here, man?
I don't know. I'm going to potentially make a video about how Jaylen Brown will eventually be moved off of our team, sadly, and it's going to break my heart. But we're going to be so desperate that we're going to have to make a move.
Yeah, it seems like that's going to be the case. From what I've gathered from Celtics fans and just the general situation, Tatum ain't going nowhere. So that should be interesting. All right, cool, man. Well, hey, you can always come back for fantasy basketball. We have that on Fridays as well, so you can come talk back some basketball, not quite football, but we'd love to have you back on. So take care, be well, everybody out there. Hope you guys do good for Monday night. Hope we can close down week 14 with some victories, and let's take it to the Hizzy and head to the playoffs, baby. Let's go. Take care, be good, be well, and if you can't be good at it. We'll see you.